Hello, hello everyone! I hope you can see and hear me well. This is our Vampire the Masquerade Game Jam workshop, which we are organizing specifically before the big event happening tomorrow, which we've already teased and announced back starting from Thursday. We are officially opening a dark pack agreement for 1 month to for everyone to make Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition games during our game jam. And this is something that we've heard from a lot of folks that they wanted this to happen, and also back in 2019 there was a previous Vampire Jam which was organized by a community, and we decided that hey, it was so fun and people had so much fun making these vampire games that maybe we should do something like this officially, and here we go. Thank you so much for everyone joining us right after LA by Night finale, which happened just like few minutes ago on YouTube and last night on Twitch. I am super happy that we can give you more content for vampires right after that, because of course there's still some time before we'll hear what exactly is up in New York, which is going to be, which was teased as something that we're doing next. But before then, we will be able to play a lot of vampire games, hopefully with the help of community members joining the Vampire Jam. And now I want to host this the whole jam workshop for those of you folks who are either interested in joining but never developed a game previously. If you're just a starter, if you've never made any game, this is something for you for sure. Sorry if you can hear my baby. She's okay, she's fine. That is there. And also, if you already made some games, if you have some game development background, then of course we can also give you a little bit of a reminder on what are the best practices during a game jam. But first of all, I'm going to start easily with just an introduction to get you to know me and what I do and what is my background in game development. If you have any questions, the chat is here for a reason. This is going to be on YouTube later, but I would love to help you out with answering your questions throughout this workshop and afterwards in the Q&A section. All right, so let's go. First of all, hi, I'm Outstar. I work for World of Darkness as the community developer. That means that I both handle the community and the strategies for how to, make you folks happy, basically. But also, I contribute to multiple of World of Darkness projects. I've been illustrating for some books. I've been writing a bit for World of Darkness Stories project, and in general, our brand team in Paradox Interactive is quite small. We are in a team of 6 people, and we dabble in a lot of things, which is great because we are able to work together very tightly to bring you new World of Darkness experiences. And I also come back from the game development background. I worked in the game industry beforehand. I worked on Witcher 3. I worked on hidden object games. I did some game jam projects. So I definitely love developing video games, and I love game jams to the bone. And one of the reasons I think how I landed this job in World of Darkness, I think maybe it wasn't a decisive reason, but it was one of the reasons, was the fact that I made a game previously, which they really liked, and it was a game jam game that I specifically wrote to them whether I can make it on the Dark Pack agreement, because it wasn't fully allowed back then to be a part of the Dark Pack. So I got the permission, I made a game, and I won the Vampire Jam with it back in 2019. So the game was called there we go. The game was called Santa Monica by Night, and it was my, not really a re-edition of Bloodlines, but definitely inspired very heavily by Bloodlines, set in the same locations, and it was the game that's I basically wanted to pour my nostalgia and my love towards Bloodlines in this game. And it was a community-driven game jam, so obviously I had to contact Paradox specifically for the allowance to make this game in particular. It's also because I was using some locations and characters from Bloodlines, which also is not by default allowed in game jams like this. So I reached out. They were like, okay, sure, it's just a 7 days jam. Like, what the hell can you do? And we made Santa Monica by Night, which again, we made it only in 7 days because that was the constraint for that game jam. Only 7 days, not a month. This time you will have a month to make a game, which is way more. It was made fully by the team of 2 people, me and memories in 8-bit, who was a software developer for the game. Basically, he was coding and putting the game in Unity. We didn't crunch nor skip on sleep. I did participate in multiple game jams back in my days, and I did have to tell you that yes, some skipping on sleep was included, especially when the game jams are 24 hours long or 48 hours long or a weekend long, because a lot of game jams are this short. So you have to make a full game in the span of 2 or 3 days. And in these cases, yes, I used to skip on sleep, and I used to crunch, and I used to, work a lot of hours throughout one weekend in order to make something, but you don't have to definitely do it. And a month of time is so much that I definitely think that there's no need to rush it, to spend too much time on it, because you can make something in a way shorter time. As I said, people make games in 48 hours, and it's fine too. If you have only one weekend available next month, then you can also participate. You don't have to develop the game for the whole month. It was made using Unity, which I will also recommend later on in this presentation. It's one of the free engines available, which you can get a lot of assets and resources to. That's great. And yeah, like, we didn't, of course, it's a game jam project. So for game jam projects, you don't really assume that it's going to monetize in any way. It's not going to, give you fame, money, and, whatever regular professional games could potentially give you, which is also a lottery. And there's a lot of factors going into that. But it was played by 45,000 people to date, which is completely blowing my mind. And it's just, so amazing. Like, it was just a project I've made in 7 days. Very short span of my life, a very small amount of energy put into it, especially because I was few months pregnant when I was making this game. So it was something that, I didn't have too much energy for. And it blows my mind that, a small game like this can make so many people happy. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about game jams, that people will play your games and they will enjoy them. And by participating in the game jam, and if you also submit the game, automatically we have to play your game. So your game will be played by the World of Darkness team, and we will make sure to get deep into the experience that you offer. So it'll be super fun. But anyway, I wanted to start these workshops with general guidelines. These are the guidelines which are both for the beginners, so if you've never made a game, this is for you. But if you already made a game, you probably will need a reminder on some of them, because every developer needs a reminder on these things, especially when you are participating in the game jam after a break. And if you, made some mistakes in your past game jams, everyone did. I feel like these 11 guidelines are going to really help you out. All right, so let's start with the first one, which is the most important thing I'm going to say on this whole stream. And whatever you do next month, please keep this in mind, because that's the most important thing ever. And that is to scope down. Just chill, take it small, it's slow, and scope down. The simpler the initial concept, the better. It's, of course, very much of a beginner mistake. A lot of people make this mistake also even when they already made some games and they want to make a second game and they want to make another game jam game. They scope too much. They want to do too much in their game. They want to do an RTS in a month. They want to do a huge, RPG game that they have tons of characters made up for, a full story that they want to convey in this short of a game. And that's always a bad idea. You need to start small. And then, of course, once your prototype is ready, you can always expand. You can always add more things. I think it almost never happens to people because we always assume that we can do more than we can actually do. But if you are going to get this achievement of actually completing your prototype early and being able to add more upon this, you should definitely receive like a special badge from all of the game jam developers in the world, because we always have troubles with this. Do not overscope. It might be very tempting to For example, if you're making a text story, branch it too much. Like, I want to have 7 endings. I want to be able for the player to play all of the clans available in V5, or even 5 clans. That's already super scary. Like 5 different experiences that your players can experience in the game. There's a lot of things that can go wrong with this. You may have to cut things. It's always better to add than to cut. So please go down, please plan small, and then you can expand further. You can definitely check out, for example, Ludum Dare. That's the game jams that are happening throughout 48 hours only, I believe, or 72 hours. One or the other. But these are game jams which happen periodically. There's a lot of them. I think 40 something already. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But there's a lot of Ludum Dare events that were organized. And if you will check the games which were finished for them, oh yeah, it's 48 for Campo and 72 for Gem. Thank you so much, Chainsaw. So yeah, you can check out what games people were able to make in that time. And honestly, if this is your first game jam, definitely aim for something that you could technically finish in 72 hours. I feel like that's, I mean, although you have a month, it's very safe and sane approach to try to make something ready in 3 days, and then you can expand on it, you can make it better, you can polish it, you can backtest it. There's a lot of things which you can do in the duration of a month. So scope down, please. It's super important. All right, and the next, which is actually funny, it's going to be a little bit of a opposite to this one, but still. Don't be afraid. It's super important. I know that it might be super scary to code if you've never coded before, because coding seems scary. It doesn't seem accessible. It doesn't seem to be easy to grasp for people. There's a reason why there are so many events around the world in which people are trying to get women or POC folks or, you know, any sort of a minority in the tech industry into coding, because for majority of us, coding just seems scary. And for me, coding seemed super scary back when I was learning how to develop my first games. And I just want to share the very first story with you from my game jam days. My very first game jam I participated in, I was like, I can't code. There is no way I'm going to learn how to code even a simple game in the duration of 1 month that I had for that particular game jam. It was also a month-long game jam. So I went online and I was like, I need to find a coder for myself to participate there with me. And of course I was not known, I was just a no one. So I went to some Facebook group and I asked the developers there, hey, can someone participate in this game jam with me? Because I'm looking for a coder. And a guy wrote to me, a guy who never made any game. What's more, he never really played games, which should have been a red flag. But he was like, yeah, I really want to get into games, so I can totally help you out, I can code. And I got him on my team. We were making a simple platformer game, and it was a game made in Unity. I was like, no, there's no way I can code in Unity. So he coded the walking, like very simple jumping and things like that. But because he had no experience with video games before, the controls were super clunky in a simple platformer game, because when he was testing it, he didn't know what was wrong with it. He didn't like feel it really. It was just like left means left, right means right. There doesn't have to be any like slowing down. For example, when you run in a platformer game, every gamer knows that when a character runs, when you stop, there has to be a little bit of a, at least a little bit of a flow with the stopping, right? It's like the animation doesn't just abruptly stop in one place. There's some kinetic force that makes you move just a step forward, right? He didn't know that. He was just basically just, yeah, you stop pressing left key, your character stops, and that's it. And, you know, in a duration of 1 month, I was like, if I learned those very basics of Unity in this month, I could have probably done this better. But because I relied so badly on someone else to do this for me, I completely, you know, lost it. And it ended up with a game which had, I think, still very fun visuals, really nice audio, and the whole, like, people said that they really enjoyed the whole story and the hook, but it was super difficult to play, and the gameplay really ruined it. There's a little comment, because by some chance the game was played by a big YouTuber on his channel who had over 400,000 subscribers, and his name is Alchest Bridge. And there was someone in the comments who asked, is this game super lame or is it just me? And I had to admit that yes, it was super lame. It was super duper lame. But yeah, it was my first game, so I was happy that I finished it. It was just a month, and I learned on that mistake that I shouldn't be scared. Don't be afraid to jump into coding. Coding is okay. Don't be afraid to jump into making graphics or editing graphics. That's also okay. You can learn. And 1 month is completely enough to learn how to do at least basically one of these things. So yeah. Checking the chat very quickly. We can try to make connections. Coders looking for artists and artists looking for coders. Definitely. Darkpack chat is there for you. Actually, I will be posting the link to Darkpack chat later, Discord, for those of you who want to join and discuss with other developers and folks who want to participate. Third advice, don't over-plan. That's a little bit different than the first one, but once you decide, okay, I'm going to participate in this game jam, I'm going to read a tutorial on how people make games, I'm going to listen to very wise people from the industry talking about how they made games, maybe I'm going to take some advice, and an advice which I was getting usually from people in the industry was make game docs. So make those documents which plan everything that you do. Make mood boards, make Trello boards, make whatever kind of a planning tool you have. Just put all your ideas there, make sure to categorize it and keep it clean, etc. Don't do it for a game jam. I mean, you can do it basically in the basic ways. You can, of course, open yourself a doc and write some simple things that you want to do and achieve. Open a Trello board and make sure that you have like the basics set up there. But I'm not sure about you folks, but I have this thing where I tend to overplan things. I love going on Pinterest, making mood boards for my projects and all that stuff. It's not worth your time in the game jam. It's, I'm so prone to wasting time making mood boards, says the caustic chemist. Exactly. Like, I love mood boards. I absolutely love doing these things for my projects in general, but when I have very strong and tight time constraints on my project, it's just not worth it. It's something that you can do for maybe one day, sure, to get inspiration, but if it's already almost the first week of a jam is over and you're still in the planning phase, then there's definitely something wrong going on here. So I definitely want to remind everyone, jump into prototyping as soon as you can. Even if you have no idea whatsoever, it might be fun to just jump into the engine and try to do something. It's a little ball that goes from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen. It collides with something, you know? It's a little story which starts in some way, but you don't know how it's going to end. Sure, just jump in, just try to make something very quickly, and it's going to definitely help you out in making it. And I do recommend Trello, actually. Trello is great. Pinterest is great to try to keep your thoughts together. Just make sure not to spend too much time on thinking. Like, it's better to do things during the game jam than think about things. I had this issue on one of the game jams I participated in person, actually. It was a 72-hour game jam where we were all in one building, basically. So there was tons of game developers in there. And my team couldn't decide on what to do. They had a lot of ideas, and I was like, let's do anything. Like, someone was just coming up with an idea. I was like, let's do this. Let's just go. And they couldn't decide. They were like, no, maybe we should think about something else. Maybe we should do something different. And I was trying to speed everyone up to just please start doing things. And we wasted almost a day on just planning because the team couldn't decide what to do. So don't be that team. Try to make something very quickly, because that's awesome. All right, and number 4, use your strengths. And that's something for every single person participating, no matter if you have game dev experience or not. For sure, you have some strengths. Maybe you come up with really cool characters. Maybe you can write really well. Maybe you draw. Maybe you can make really cool music. Or maybe you just code, and that's something that you do the best. whatever is your strength, focus on it and try to come up with a project which is utilizing it the most. If you are not that great in coding, but you do super cool art, try to focus more on art. If you are a coder that doesn't do art much, don't do an art-heavy game. Free assets are great, but you cannot really get exactly what you want looking for free assets. Maybe if you're super lucky, but definitely try to lean towards your strengths. That's something that everyone, I think, participating in any game jam should do. For example, I am an artist, first and foremost, so I always try for my games to rely a lot on the art. Santa Monica by Night relies on art a lot. It's a pixel art game. It's an adventure game. It doesn't have a lot of complicated coding in it. It's basically just, you click on things and things happen, and there's a lot of visuals to it. So I rely on art, animation, and stuff like that. Let me see. So what if we make a game but cannot finish it in the game jam time? Unfortunately, the Dark Pack agreement is only open for the duration of this month. So that's why this workshop is also made to make sure that everyone will be able to finish their games. It's, because it's a lot of the rules and things that are put in the game jam, and you can check them out all on this page, itch.io/jam/VTM. There are also terms and conditions, which is also a very important page to read. All of these things are made sure to, we are a licensing brand, and we of course have official licensees working on games for us, and we want to be fair towards them as well. And people could technically, if that would be indefinitely put to the future, that everyone can use the Dark Pack agreement to make games, people could use it just like license, but without our supervision. So they could just make big games, very big games, without any supervision that the regular licensees have. So that would definitely put licensees in a worse situation, which we don't want to have. And that's why you can only publish these games during the next month. And if you publish the games, you can still work on them in the future, but you can only add translations, accessibility features, and bug fixes. So these three things are allowed indefinitely. You can work on them, but you cannot add more content packs, DLCs, expansion packs. That won't be allowed. No, it's just a part of the game jam. The Dark Pack is open specifically for the duration and for the game jam. Checking it out? Alright, I will be answering more questions as we go. But point number 5, make it easy to get into. That's super important. There are various theories about that, but in general, I think it's safe to say you have about 60 seconds after the game, maybe more if you have a main menu, but you have about 60 seconds to get your player interested. And if they don't know what to do, if they cannot figure out what's going on, then they are going to quit your game and probably never play it again, which is, sad. So definitely make sure for your games, for the very beginning at least, to be very easy to grasp, easy to get, easy to control. Because, of course, you can ease it up with a tutorial, but making a tutorial is sometimes time-consuming and also takes time from the development of the game. So the more intuitive you make it, the better. There was plenty of games which I've played on Ludum Dare where I got into the game and I just, after a minute or so, I was stuck somewhere and I didn't know what to do next. There was either like some doors I had to open, but I didn't know where was the key or which key on my keyboard should I use to open these doors. And that definitely made me just exit the game and go to another one because I didn't know what to do. So important, make your games easy and accessible from the very start. The difficulty curve can go up very quickly. You can make a Super Meat Boy kind of a game which has a lot of challenges, but it's important to make it fun. Challenges have to be fun. They cannot be frustrating. Like, I don't know what to do. I know what to do, but I am just not good enough to do it is okay. But if you have no idea what to do whatsoever, then that's not a good game design. I am going to drink some water and then continue. Yes, definitely. You can join another team and contribute to someone else's idea if you do not feel good enough to come up with your own idea. If you feel like you don't really trust your own gut in this at first, you can just get an experience by playing with someone else. I've learned that in other game jams to be a part of a team. One guy I know was great at organizing and became an excellent producer and works as a producer now. That's amazing. I think game jams can be rewarding both solo and in a team. It's always easier in a team, and also it's a very good learning experience to work with a team because there are always going to be some problems to solve, and it's easier sometimes to solve them with a team, and also sometimes more challenging, which is going to give you some more experience. Devil Love, yeah, absolutely, you can rewatch this later. This is going to be available as a VOD. No issue. Yes, we will have it on YouTube. All right, so remember, either tutorialize it, which is time-consuming, or just make your game easy to get into and easy to grasp. And point 6, leave room for testing. I know, no game ever was made without a single bug. Now you can argue with me, maybe you have some game jam games which you've made miraculously without making a single mistake and a single bug in them, which, I don't know, even in visual novels it happens. Even in very basic text games, bugs happen. Some lettering mistakes, for example. Testing is extremely important, and sometimes we do not really leave room for it because we think that, hey, we've played through this part once, it's fine, it worked okay, we can move forward and add some more stuff. Don't get this mindset, because everyone will have a different experience with your game. It's great to put someone else's eyes on it. Ask your friends to play your game. Ask your mother to play the game. Actually, it's great to make people who don't really play games to play your game, because this is testing for this point. Make it easy to get into. Make your nephew, niece, child, some younger friend, or someone who's super not into games play your game, because that is really going to help out in trying to find any problems with accessibility and problems with making the game easy. I think Rami Ismail was the person that said that your game should be playable, initially at least, by your grandpa or grandma. And I agree. They should be definitely have this easy curve in, at least at the beginning, you know, like if your grandmother would sit and try to play Dark Souls, she would be able to move, she would be probably able to jump, she would be able to use her weapon. Maybe she wouldn't be able to really overcome the first enemy, but she would know exactly why not. She just didn't do it on time, she had the timing wrong, that's okay. But she would know what the controls are and the very basics. So Dark Souls passes this test, actually. Are you also participating in the jam? I cannot, because I am a judge, which pains me. I would love to participate, but no, I'm not participating. I am an organizer and a judge, so I will be very happily playing your games. You would love to see your grandma playing Dark Souls. There is a grandma on Twitch playing Skyrim that I know of. I'm not sure there are grandmas playing Dark Souls, but probably. I was more musing about being more of a writer than an artist. I was thinking of utilizing the art packs, but those only go so far. There's plenty of things in the art packs, the official art packs. There's over 100 graphics in general, but also you don't have to keep to them. There are plenty of free artworks you can get from other sources. We added some links to the Game Jam page, but there are just so many more. Search for Creative Commons license and you will find tons of stuff online. Archon here in the chat, by the way, our moderator, she actually worked on a text game for the Vampire Jam called Communion. I really recommend it. It's great. It doesn't, I believe, utilize any or many drawings. I recall it was just mainly text-based game in Twine. It was really good. I loved it. What resources sites are out there to help a first-timer? You can go to itch.io/jam/VTM. And you can go to the resources section, and we actually have some links in there. There are very basic links. It's not a full list. There's a lot more that you can find online. But I recommend Open Game Art. I recommend going on Itch to the free resources section. Pexels is a page I use a lot myself, with videos and with photos. And there's a lot of free music online, free sounds that you can use for sound effects. But anyway, leave room for testing. Important, do not leave it for the last day. Try to test throughout the process, but definitely at the end of a game jam, like, give it at least a few days and a few players from outside to play your game and let you know if it works or not. Point 7, take breaks and stretch. This is something I touched upon in the very beginning, but it is very easy to get yourself in the game jam mode, which is basically survival. And I'm not even kidding. When you are participating in a game jam that actually lasts for 48 or 72 hours, so one weekend, and you, especially when you go to a location, so everyone is in the same place. Throughout the pandemic, we didn't have many game jams like that, but I assume they're going to come back now. This is really a survival zone. The smell is horrible. I'm not even kidding. The smell after 2 days in places like that is like there was a war, but it only involved nerds. And people don't eat or don't eat very well. There are faints. People faint. There's just, it's a war zone. So I recommend not doing that and trying to take care of yourself. Do not drink too many energy drinks because they're going to make you feel worse later on and you're going to be less energetic to finish your game. Get enough sleep. I know I'm basically saying this only as a precaution. I know it's just, it's a 1 month, so no one would really go into the true game jam mode for the duration of the whole month because you wouldn't stay alive. But I just want to ensure everyone that it is okay to take breaks. It's okay to take, especially with month-long jam, take a lot of time off, take days off from your game and go back to it. You're going to have fresh ideas, fresh look on it, and you're going to see it with the fresh colors. Maybe you will get some better inspiration. I found myself at my work, I do tend to work a lot, but when I have my breaks, I tend to have the best ideas, which I later develop and put into life. I personally have best ideas in the shower or when I am about to go to sleep and my brain is resting. So even if you're not in this kind of a mode, I definitely recommend to stay healthy because especially in the duration of the longer jam, which is a month, it's going to allow you to just get through it with more energy and more power and more brain powers, which you need for game jams, definitely. And also, of course, if you are combining this with work, school, or any other adult real-life commitments, or even non-adult commitments, but basically things that you are doing besides for jamming, then try to ensure that you are not sacrificing anything for a game jam. Game jams are great for additional education, for additional knowledge gathering, for basically getting experience in a skill which can really pay off in the future. You can go to your future game dev interviews, for example, if you want to become a game developer, and you can tell your interviewer that you've made a game for a game jam, and it's going to definitely give you some plus points. But it is not worth really dropping anything else at the time. It's an added thing, which is something you can do in the evenings or on the weekends. And again, people make full games in the span of 48 hours. So in a month of time, there's a plenty of time which you can use to just squeeze it somewhere. Quickly drinking some water and checking the chat. Yeah, water is your friend, definitely. Also, I recommend music a lot. I was pushed to do my game jam games. Even when I was very tired in some moments, I was pushed through some good music. So I have playlists which I use for a game jam. It's either a lo-fi or when I need some energy, then I was playing soundtrack from Hotline Miami and some more like house beats and stuff like that. And it was definitely pushing me to code faster and to do some fun stuff. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines soundtrack, perfect for developing. Although the only issue you may jump into is it's so hard to find anything like Rick Schaffer. So if you want to have any soundtrack which is going to have similar vibes, it might be difficult to find anything. Hotline Miami soundtrack makes you code 10% faster. That is true. No, honestly, it's true. I was putting that one Hydrogen song on loop when I was making one of my game jam games, and I had only 8 hours to finish it. It was like an 8-hour game jam. So I just had the Hydrogen on loop, and I finished it, so yeah. Can we make a Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines development simulator? You cannot use the name Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines in your game jams. I'm sorry. There's in the rules. You cannot use the branding from other vampire games in this game because else people would be able to make Bloodlines 2, but my version, which we want to avoid. Do you recommend the Bloodlines Club dance moves as a workout to stay active during development? I would love to, except for the fact that they are very chaotic and you might knock out your monitor and lose your hardware. So if you have enough space in your room, yes. If not, then try to just do yoga. I do my best World of Darkness writing with things completely unrelated to horror or supernatural. Interesting. Anyway. Next point. Let's go to the next point on the list, and that is don't forget audio. See, we were just talking about Rick Schaffer. This is a perfect occasion to jump into this one. Audio is something that I feel like a lot of people in game jams have similar experiences. Maybe not if you make music yourself or if you make audio yourself, but it's something that plenty of devs just push to the very last and don't treat too seriously. Because it's like, I can just download something from Freesound, I can just go to Free Music Archive, browse it for an hour and find some music, it's fine. But good audio can really make or break, make your game, and bad audio can break your game. So it's super important. That sound is the sound of Lego. Apologies. There's just a lot of Lego being thrown around the room. So yeah, don't forget about the audio and make sure to spend enough time on finding a correct one if you are not having your own audio designer, and trying to put it in your game in the most proper way, because it's always difficult to make sure that the fade-ins are proper depending on the engine you use. You need to probably learn how to put it in the particular places. For example, when you open the door, there's a door opening sound. There's plenty of things to do around audio, so don't put it as the very last thing to do. Try to develop it very early on. Do you gain humanity from dancing in real life too? Yeah, I do assume so. It depends how you dance, but yes. If your dancing involves punching other people, like you dance and you punch people, then probably not, but in general, yes. So yes, do not forget audio. It's important, and it's going to really help your game, no matter what game you make. Even if you make an text game, it can help you out. And you can actually make an audio game if you want to. Also, do not be afraid to, if you cannot find for any sake the audio which will fit in your game. For example, you want a feeling sound of someone slurping someone's neck, or you want the sound of breaking bones, then you can actually record it with your own home microphone. You can take carrots and break carrots in front of your microphone to imitate the sound of breaking bones. For slurping, just do some ASMR slurping in your microphone. It's okay. It's going to sound hilarious to people around you, but you can definitely give you this additional cool aspect of, hey, I made sound effects for my game myself. It's fine. Would a Streets of Rage style action game suit Gem's proposal? There is no limit on the genre. You can go all the way in, as long as you fit it somehow in Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition setting, because we are trying to keep it all, setting friendly. Just because the winner is going to be on Steam among Coteries of New York, Night Road, and all of these awesome games, we want to make sure that these games are all in the same setting. I'm trying to bring my boyfriend to make music for me. That's also a great idea. And if you have any friend that makes music, they're usually super happy to contribute to projects like this. So you can definitely ask. And make sure to credit them. That's important. All right, so screen shake phase. That's one of my favorite parts. And that definitely, for some reason, also applies to text games and to games that, don't have those very fancy graphics. But how, I'm going to tell you in a second. Once your basic prototype is done, please do think about the additional polishing methods, post-process, post-effects, which you can add on to make it pop more, to make it captivate the player more. And in order to get to know ways in which you can do it, I recommend playing games. For example, play Heart the Forest, which is, I think, is a very good example of a game which is a text game. It's a visual novel, but it actually has some of that post-process done, like the sounds and the color of the text and little animations here and there that make it really special. If you want to make a 2D game, I recommend Hotline Miami, for example, which has those screen shakes and things happen on the screen very, you don't really notice them when you play the game, but things always happen, always move. There's this pumping going on with the music. It's lovely. So there's there's a lot of things which you can do like this, either for 2D games, text games, visual novels, 3D games as well. You can do some post-processing with a fog, for example, add some coloring, color palette over it, which is going to make your game stand out. There's a lot of post-process effects which any game could use. And bringing this to any of your title is going to make it stand out more and make players think that, that there's actually some real work put into it. Because a lot of game jam developers forget about this phase, which means that their games, even though they have a great story, they are playable, everything works well, they don't have that extra cool factor, which you can definitely put with this screen shake phase, as I call it. And to get inspiration for screen shake phase, play other games. Get some break, try to see what other developers of a similar genre to yours did, and just copy it. It's fine. I mean, do not copy it like copy and paste, but think like, hey, all right, so this game made the screen more red when there was something happening. I like this idea. I want to use it in my game too. It's fine. No one will mind. And we have 2 more points for the general tips. Then we're going to go to the actual how to make a game. Marketing is important. If you do that screen shake, oh yeah, of course, that is very important. So the literal screen shake, so when your screen shakes a lot rapidly, or for example, some people use a blinking colors effect. That's something that definitely is affecting accessibility of your games. It may cause very severe reactions for some players, and it needs warnings in the beginning, and it would be great if you can implement an option to turn them off. So screen shake effects is just called screen shake as it's the most common addition to simple 2D games where you hit someone and something happens with the screen. It can be very little shake that is barely visible, but it makes the game pop. But if you add any additional, like, I think Cyberpunk is a good example. Initially, Cyberpunk had too much of this. So too much of screen shake is also bad. So too much of post-process, the things that were blinking in front of your eyes when you were putting your Netrunner glasses on in the game, it all made everyone's head hurt. And you don't want this reaction. You don't want the adverse reaction from your players when they play the game. So Cyberpunk, bad example of this, but there's a lot of 2D games or 3D games which have good examples of this post-process effect. Thank you so much for bringing it out. It's important not to conflict this phase in your mind with every game needs to shake a lot, because that's not what it means. All right, marketing, important, super important. Make sure that, people play your game, because even if your game is awesome, even if there's everything just done right, it sucks if people won't play it. It's all game jam games. I think what gives us the most reward for making these games is that people play them and enjoy them. And in order for them to play them, it's best to employ some marketing methods in order to put them out there and push them in front of people's eyes. We did that with Santa Monica by Night. I was relentlessly tweeting about making this game every single day. I was doing GIFs and screenshots and putting it on Twitter. And it paid out because we were eventually featured on PC Gamer, which was just out of this world. And I would never expect that any game jam game would get there. But we got an article in the press. So yeah, as long as you make sure to make marketing materials, I'm going to go later into how and what kind of materials you can make. It's something that is going to definitely help the playability of your game or the amount of people who are going to play your game. And start talking about your game early. Even if you have only an idea, if you've made some first controls or whatever, it's already enough to make a GIF out of it, to post it on Twitter, to tell people, hey, success, I did this. It's fine. Just make sure to not be afraid to talk well about what you do, which is something that I know a lot of people have to learn. I had to learn it myself. Don't be afraid to be seen as someone who is, how do you call this in English? When you are boasting, I think. When you're basically saying, hey, oh my God, I made this, I'm so proud of myself, this is my game. I know it may be not great, but it's amazing for me. Like, don't be afraid to be this kind of a person. Promote your stuff like you believe in it. Confidence, there you go. Don't be afraid to be confident. Will there be another jam next year? I cannot tell you yet. We'll see how this one is going to go. Text note on Cyberpunk. Would products prefer that any content warnings are in the splash screen, or is it okay to just give the warnings in the jump game page? We didn't specify preference in the rules, but from my experience, it's best if your content warnings are in the game itself, because a lot of people don't read the description. So if you care about your players, please put the content warnings in the game itself, because a lot of them may not scroll down to the description. They may just want to play the game or download the game and play it, and they are not going to read it. So it's best to put everything in the game itself. All right, be your own biggest fan. Yes, that's important. I know it feels weird, but for game development, for marketing, if you market your own stuff, unfortunately, it's important to be confident about what you do, even if you're not. Pretend that you're confident. And last but not least, for the general notes, it's just a game jam. You don't have to worry too much, first of all, and it's not worth the drama, especially when you are with your teammates in any sort of a disagreement. It never happened to me personally, fortunately. I never had a situation where I would argue with my game jam mates and we had an issue, a personal issue in the development, but it does happen a lot. I've been a witness to situations like in the same room, people would just start being angry at each other because they didn't agree on some feature. It's a game of compromises. You need to make sure that you compromise to be the adult in the group as well. If there's someone that is super married to some kind of an idea and there's just no way to talk them out of this, and you want to still work with that person, then might as well just, make this idea come true. Of course, there's it's just not worth any toxicity, any animosity towards other folks, making sure that your idea is first and foremost and best. Sometimes it's good to just, take a step back, treat it as a learning experience, and try to make something together with other people instead of trying to push, hey, it has to be my idea, it has to be my game. We had this workshop back in the days in one of the game dev meetings I participated in, which was, it was kind of interesting. So basically how it worked is, everyone had some ideas for a game, so everyone had to write an idea for their game, and they were introducing them to the whole group, and the group was of like 30 people, but there could maybe a little bit less, maybe like 18 people, but there could only be 6 teams in the end, or 5 teams, which would develop games. So not all of the ideas could be used in practice and developed. So in the end, everyone, even if you had your own idea, of course, you had to agree to someone else's ideas, and the ideas which had the most thumbs up were the ones developed. And it turned out that we had plenty of groups made of that, so people had to give up their ideas and join someone else and do the game with them. But I remember there was one person on this game jam that was like, I'm not going to agree to anyone else's idea. I am too tied to my own idea. I like it the most, I'm going to make it. And honestly, that person had the worst time on the game jam. And it's not like they had a very cool idea. They made half of a not finished prototype of a game which seemed very fun, but they just didn't seem to have fun during the contest in itself, because everyone else was working in the group, everyone else was having fun coming with ideas together, and there was just this one solo person that was not having it really. But of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot make the game alone and make the game solo. For a game jam like that, it may be super fun and rewarding to just go into it alone. But if you are already in a part of a group, or if you agreed to be a part of the group, just make sure to find compromise and make sure to be tolerant of other people's ideas too. All right, and now we are going to the phase of, if you've never made a game in your life, or if you just want to get some heads up of what you can do in the duration of the month, here's some more proper advice of where you can go. And we are going to start with this screen. How do I make games anyway? Which is, I think, very relatable. Every one of us, even if you made some games, we were in this phase. We sat in front of our computer and we're like, hey, I want to make games. Let's Google how to make games. And I'm going to be Google for you today. I'm going to help you out with the very basics. And I'm going to start with a very simplified advice. So if you are already very experienced and have different ideas about this, please don't mind me here. This is super simplified, and I just want to convey the message for super beginners, which may as well change their minds in the end. So this is a very simplified difficulty curve, and it's not always true. Just keep that in mind. This is not always true, but the very simplest thing you can do in the duration of a month is a text game using an engine which has many constraints. So an engine like Twine, for example. You cannot make a 3D game in Twine. I don't think it's possible. Maybe it is with some shenanigans and coding, but you cannot make a 3D game in Twine. You cannot make action-based Assassin's Creed, whatever, in Twine. You have a lot of constraints put on you, which you have to move like in a very tight corridor. But working in a very tight corridor allows you to not go astray and not go into too many other rooms, which may have interesting things. Working in Unreal Engine, I'm going to talk about it too, is like you have this whole mansion in front of yourself, and the mansion has 100 rooms, and you want to explore all of them, but you only have 1 hour. And what the hell are you going to do? So you can definitely finish a game in any engine in the duration of a month, but it is more difficult to do it in the engines which give you more options. If you opt for something which has less options, it's going to allow you to finish things faster. Then 2D games, so basically any 2D experiences basing on tutorials is great, keeping the scope down, and then 3D games in the engines which let you do about anything. Now, important, there might be a 3D game which is simpler to do than a text game that has a very big scope. A text game with tons of endings, tons of variables, tons of things is going to be more difficult and more lengthy to do than a very simple 3D game. So it's important, but it's something that can differ in here. But if you are just a beginner, you can just start with a text game, it's fine. Let me see what is going on. This is the problem I have. I'm good at Unity, but learning Unreal, so do I use Unreal or go back to Unity? That's your decision. I cannot really tell you what's better because they're both great. I love both of them. So it depends on, you know, whether you want to use this as a learning experience or maybe you want to do something better than you've ever done before for a game jam in Unity. All right, and the next one, making a text game. So let's assume that you are going to make a text game. So there are a lot of pluses of that. There is no coding required. Just write it like a book, basically. You can try it out before, you can try to plan the game out before you write, which is always a good idea. So do not start writing from the get-go. I mean, you might if you want to, but try to at least set up a very general branch. And do not over branch, because branching in these games is what takes the most time. I'm going to maybe even do a little bit of a showcase, which is going to be the simplest possible game I've ever done. I'm going to Vampire Jam. I'm opening the Twine in the background. I'm going to see if this is actually going to work. And at the little window capture here. Here, there we go. I'm just going to push it down and push it here and make my camera go up for a second. So there we go. All right, I am in Twine right now. Twine is something that you can also access on websites, so you don't have to actually download it. It can be fully done on the web. And it's free, it's open source, so you can do anything with it. And this is your passage. So, hey, I want to make a vampire game and I only have 5 minutes to do it. What do? I go here. And I say, I'm going to call it starts. So I'm writing starts. You are a vampire. You are very hungry. What do you do? And we start, if I remember correctly how to do it, I think it's this way. Bite a human. And this is going to go to bite. And a second, it looks like coding, but it's not really, so don't worry about it. Don't bite a human. Don't bite. Don't. I have a Swedish keyboard, so I struggle with I'm learning how to do signs, so sorry. Don't bite. There we go. And we do. Where's this thing? Where is? Oh, here. There we go. Don't bite. right? By the human, bite, not by the human, don't bite. There we go. It automatically made me 2 more passages, and I'm going to go here, and in bite I'm going to say, you bit a human and feel satiated or sated. Is it proper? And feel and not feel hungry anymore. It's a bad game. It's fine. You win the game. And I'm going to write start again. And this is going to go to start. All right. And this one is, you got very hungry and murdered someone. Wow, you're bad. You lose the game. Try again. Start. And that's it. I've made the game. It's over. It took me 3 minutes. Play the game. You are a vampire. Oh wait, you cannot actually see that. I'm going to another window capture. I just pressed play the game in the corner. Perfect. This is my game. You are a vampire. You are very hungry. What do? I bite a human. You bit a human and not feel hungry anymore. You win the game. Start again. You are a vampire. You are very hungry. What do? Don't bite a human. You get very hungry and murdered someone. Wow, you're bad. You lost the game. There we go. The game is finished. And twine is really simple. You can, of course, just do this. Basically do branching and branch out, make this big, make many multiple choices. Again, don't over branch because you only have a month. But this can definitely build up your own vampire story. And then you can even add images to it. You can add music to it. You can add variables. So depending on what happens in the game, you get more hungry. There's a hunger variable. If the hunger variable is high, there are some different events happening. There's so much what you can do in this engine if you start to develop a game. You can also keep it simple. It's totally fine. But yeah, that was basically making a full game in the duration of Game Jam. So it'll become a spider of branched trees in no time. I'm going to hide it for a second and I'm going to show you is this one? There we go. I'm going to go back because I don't want to show you like my creepy projects I have in here. But I can show you a visual novel that I was working on and how the branching was working there. Let me just... Okay, here. So this is a proper visual novel that I was working on previously. And this is the branching for it. So as you can see, these are the endings, and this is how branching goes in it. There were like 2 main stories there that were branched differently, and in each of these passages there's a plenty of text happening, so there's a plenty of things going on. So this is a big game. Like, this was being done for months, so don't aim for something like this. Definitely aim for something smaller, and it's going to help you out. But yeah, twine is literally the easiest way you can go, I think. There might be some easier ones, and twine can also be complicated and complex if you develop some more advanced projects, but it's something that you can definitely try to do on your own. Okay, so yeah, there's also StoryMaker Axma StoryMaker GS, which I think is paid, but it allows you to code a little bit more in JavaScript. If you have some background in coding, it's going to make it better than Twine, which is, I guess, a little bit worse for people who actually can code, because you could just get a lot of things done quicker. Inkle Writer. So this is interesting. Inkle Writer is a software made by Inkle, which also made Ink by Inkle, and that's something that I use a lot. If you want to develop a visual novel kind of a game, text game in Unity, so if you want to have some more 2D aspects of the game, some more even like a platformer game or whatever kind of a game like this, then you can implement Ink into Unity. And it's a very cool tool which you can use as a part of Unity to develop branching stories and branching dialogues. It's something I used previously. It's super fun. But Inkle Writer is a standalone software which you can use outside of Unity. You don't have to have Unity for it. All right, so let's go forward to visual novels. So yeah, let's say you played Coteries of New York, Shadows of New York, anything like that. You want to make your own visual novel because it seems to be simple, right? It can be simple, it can be also not simple, but you can do a lot in a month for a visual novel, and there are plenty of engines available. Now, interestingly enough, the simpler the engine at first, the more constraints it will put on you later. You can go on Steam and search for visual novel engines. There's a visual novel maker, there's a Tyranno builder, which are, you can buy them on Steam. They're actually in promo right now, so you can buy them for cheaper. And they are just drag and drop. You can just make something out of Lego bricks, basically. You can very simply make your own game there. But you can also go for Ren'Py, which is going to seem more complex at first, but Ren'Py is amazing. It's open source. You can do a lot in it if you only know Python. If you don't know Python, you can learn Python with Ren'Py. So it may seem complex at first, but it's not really that complex, and you can definitely learn it in a month. So if you're ambitious, and I mean, if you have any game development experience, then just go with Ren'Py. If you are ambitious, go with Ren'Py. But if you want to just assemble something super quickly and you are very, very afraid of coding, then any of these are also fine. So yeah, no, Ren'Py, most of the visual novels I know were made on Ren'Py. I do believe Coteries and Shadows were made in Unity, actually. So they are not Ren'Py games, but most of the games you've played, if you play visual novels, games like Amnesia Memories, Cherry's games in general, and a lot of like visual novels out there, especially the anime ones, are made in Ren'Py, which is a great engine. I love it. And yeah, Doki Doki was also made in Ren'Py, so yeah. I do recommend Ren'Py myself. It's great, but again, it does involve a little bit of coding, which you can skip if you use something else, but it's going to give you more issues later if you actually want to do some more advanced stuff. Now, making a 2D game. Do not be afraid of coding when you make a 2D game. Coding is not that difficult, and actually 2D games, especially simple platformers, top-down RPGs, stuff like that, are the best way to learn how to do basic coding. It's super easy to get into it. Do test them a lot, because there tends to be a lot of issues, of course, when there is like actually a plane that you can move on and interact with your environment. And it's also important for 2D games to make sure that the controls and whatever player can do feels impactful and feels natural. So that's something that definitely needs a lot of work for every single 2D game you make. And you can use RPG Maker, of course, but it won't allow you to do much like changes from its basic like, I haven't tested the recent RPG Maker, but I remember back in the days it had constraints with resolution. I don't think it has that anymore, but the assets available in the RPG Maker also, even if you get the free assets, they are very often in a very similar style, which might be difficult for a Vampire Gem in particular, but who knows, maybe you can get something super atmospheric done in it. And it's going to be, I feel like in the long run, it's better to make RPG Maker-like games in engines which allow you to do more and to interact with what you do more. But for beginners, it might as well be something that you can do. I dare you to make a Vampire Dark game in RPG Maker. It would be definitely not easy, but I mean, it would be easier if you can make your own assets and if you make your own assets into it. But it's going to pose you some problems if you just want to base on what's in the engine. Game Maker is super cool. I use it aplenty. It is going to infuriate actual coders, people who actually code. Whenever they were working with me on Game Maker's games, they wanted to just, destroy everything and destroy me. Because Game Maker coding is just very simplified and doesn't make sense in a lot of ways for regular coders that code in regular coding languages. But Game Maker is just fun to do, to make games, and it's very approachable. Again, on the advanced levels, it may put you in trouble here and there with its constraints. My husband he is a coder, and he tries to make some complex things in Game Maker, and he always is very mad. But yeah, Game Maker is definitely a very good start. But it's paid, I think. I'm not sure there's a free license nowadays. There might be, but I think if you want to export the game in HTML5, you need to pay some money. Unity. free to use, huge. Most of the games, maybe not most of the games made nowadays, but a lot of games made are made in Unity. The games that you play professionally on the Steam or on any game store you use. Plenty of games you've played are probably made in Unity, which is great. But it also makes there's a trouble of trying to scope too big. In Unity you can do just anything. So making sure to scope it down, you can make something super simple in Unity very easily. And also a plus of Unity is that there's a lot of tutorials. Godot is similar, I would say. The plus of Godot is I think it's also open source. Correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of coders really like Godot. The issue is it has less resources and assets than Unity, so you are more constrained if you want to use someone else's stuff. But Unity has more when it comes to that. All right, and now making a 3D game. If you want to really badly make a 3D game, it's always a challenge to make a 3D game for game jams, but people do them. Even for Vampire Jam, which was 7 days long back in 2019, there was a really cool 3D game, I remember, the stealth game that someone made. Asset stores are your friends, free assets are your friends. No one has time to model in 3D during a game jam. If you do, then you're amazing, but it's difficult. And make sure to get the gameplay prototype done quickly. The biggest issue with these engines is you can go too much overboard because there's so much stuff you can add and do things in there. Godot is open source, there we go. If you want to make a 3D game, don't. You can. I wouldn't recommend it if you're a beginner. If you've never participated in a game jam before, this is your first game jam, jumping in a 3D game might not be simple. But why exactly I'm going to get you that knowledge in this slide. Okay, so picking Unreal Engine. I'm specifically picking Unreal Engine here because it's definitely an engine that seems to be, for a lot of beginners, the most tempting to use. It's free. Immediately, whatever you put in there is beautiful as hell. So many amazing games based on Unreal Engine. And hey, for Vampire the Masquerade fans, Bloodlines 2, right? Unreal Engine. And you want to make something similar looking, right? So it might be tempting, and it is possible to finish a game in a month in Unreal Engine, but the pros are there are tons of free assets to use. Even when you download the engine in itself, it comes with assets. So you can just put some beautiful environments in it in a second. Tons of tutorials. So there's a lot of people that help you get through it. No need to code if you really don't want to. There's a lot of basically drag and drop sort of like a built-in system in which you don't have to physically code. And your game is admittedly pretty with no effort. I mean, or very little effort. But cons. It's too easy to overscope. It's too easy to try to add more. It's also too easy to get stuck on an issue if you've never worked on it before. So if you never worked on any game engine, in any game engine, on any game in your past, being stuck on very simple bugs in your game or being stuck on very simple troubles that may be solvable by someone more experienced may seem like huge walls to have to climb on. There's huge barriers in front of you. So I do not recommend to go overboard and scope too big, because you can always get into these issues. Optimization is an issue. Also, if you have no experience with optimizing your games, your game made in Unreal Engine may be super heavy on people's PCs and people may just not be able to play them. And falling into tutorial trap, which I'm going to explain in the next slide. In here. So tutorials in general are your friends, and if you've never made a game before, just watch a tutorial. For any engine you pick, for any genre you pick, there are tutorials out there. Go on YouTube and search for whatever you're interested in. Learn Unity in 17 minutes. You probably cannot learn Unity properly in 17 minutes, but you can definitely make something in Unity in 17 minutes. Complete platformer tutorial for Game Maker Studio. Great! You can make your own platformer game if you follow everything step by step. But there is a trap in here in which you can fall if you only base on tutorials, if you've made nothing before, and you feel particularly confident in doing something based on a tutorial. And that is this trap. Don't go too far too fast. There are some amazing tutorial series for advanced developers on YouTube. The first one I actually watched in full, the Unreal Engine 4 RTS tutorial series, great, I love it. Second one, survival game tutorials in Unity 5, the full survival game made in 32 videos, that every single one of them lasts for at least half an hour. It will take you days to watch these, days to implement it in your game, and if you will stumble upon any issue, any bug, any problem, you will go to, because all of these videos actually have comment sections in which there are people saying, please help me out, author of this video, my game is not working for some reason, I did everything that you did and it's not working, what do I do? You are going to jump into this issue if you had no prior experience with the engine. There are always some problems that you will find, and the YouTuber isn't going to help you, unfortunately. There is a YouTuber out there that once replied to a similar pledge from myself. I wrote to them like, please, can you help me out with this, because something in my game isn't working. And it turned out he was a very big Vampire the Masquerade fan, so he actually recognized me. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. But it's just something that that doesn't happen often, and you shouldn't rely on someone else to help you with bugs in the game and with problems with your game. So thank you so much, Mystisk. That's so nice of you. So yeah, please do not do this. If you are a beginner developer, if you've never made anything before, try not to go into super difficult genres to develop using tutorials only, because you are going to find blockers, basically, how I call them. There's a blocker that makes you unable to move forward, and you do not know the way, you cannot find a way in a reasonable time. You get frustrated when you find a bug in your game that you cannot fix. So I know that there is probably, every single bug can be solved with enough thinking, but sometimes you just don't have that much thinking in order to grasp a game big like this in a month. So making a survival game, RTS game, full-blown strategy game, MMORPG game, or anything like this in 1 month is extremely difficult unless you scope it super, super, super down. So yeah. That's the thing, and now we're going to jump into the last part, which is how to promote your game, because that's important. And whatever game you do, even if you feel it sucks, again, be confident, there are going to be people who are going to enjoy it. So, marketing ideas. First of all, Twitter is your friend. A lot of game dev stuff happens on Twitter, a lot of game jam stuff happens on Twitter. So if you use Twitter, learn to make GIFs. GIFs are a really cool way to promote your game in development. And honestly, I've been following many developers, indie developers, throughout the development of their games. And even though I, in the end, had no intent of playing their games, I would just buy them because I followed them for years on Twitter. And I was like, you finally made it. You're amazing. I watched the GIFs from your game since 2016. And now I'm going to get your game and support you. So learn to make GIFs and just record your screen. You can use the streaming software for that. I usually do that when I do my GIFs. I use my OBS, which is a free software, records the part of my game, and then make it into a GIF. There are many GIF converters online you can find. And use hashtags. Hashtag Vampire Jam is the official hashtag for this contest, but there's also hashtag Vamily for Vampire the Masquerade fans, Game Dev, Screenshot Saturday, and way more. So do not use more than 5 hashtags per tweet. Less is better. Twitter algorithm is weird about that, but if you use more than 5, then it just completely destroys your engagement. And usually it's best to use just 1 or 2. So a little tip in here. Screenshot everything. If you have some bugs, behind the scenes, finding mistakes, anything relevant and relatable, post it. It's great. Sharing some bugs is probably the most fun part of game dev Twitter. Just seeing how people failed in their games, it's awesome. From Bloodlines Characters, you can use, if you're asking about using characters from games, if the characters were mentioned in the books or in LA by Night, you can use them. So Lacroix in particular was mentioned in the book, so you could technically use Lacroix. Yeah. You can use Kadir too, because he's also coming from a book. I made a mistake initially. Someone pointed out on Discord that I wrote that you cannot make Kadir Dating Simulator. Actually, you can make Kadir Dating Simulator, because Kadir was a book character. So yeah. Lacroix, Jeanette, Therese, Nines, Jack, E, Beckett. There's a lot of characters from Bloodlines you could technically use. Now, Twitch and YouTube, if you are not afraid of doing this, because I know this may be scary, stream yourself while making your game. I watched a stream of a guy that made the game, which right now is developed and released. It's called Manifold Garden. But I think like his main way of promoting it was just streaming. He was streaming most of the processes in the development. He was like streaming all the time when he was making the game. And yeah, I bought the game in the end because I was like, hey, it's awesome. I want to support you. So do stream your game. Promote your stream on Twitter and Discord. If you are streaming development, post it on World of Darkness Discord or on the Dark Pack community Discord. I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to watch you from the family. Post Let's Play after you finish your game with the commentary from a developer. That's always fun. And you can let streamers know you have a free game to play. If there are any streamers that you know, if you don't know any, you can just browse Twitch, that play variety games, that play indie games. Maybe they have indie Thursdays or indie Saturdays or whatever kind of show like that, where they just play random games they found on itch. Then you can always tell them, hey, it's my game, you can play it. And get someone to play your game for the audience, and that would be great. Don't be mad at people if they say no, of course, because sometimes they just have too much on their plate. But yeah, just show your game to streamers, and maybe they'll play it. All right. And next, Discord. Be active in the community that might be interested in playing your game. In this case, World of Darkness and Dark Pack community. I'm sure there'll be people there that would love to test out and play your game. And you can also promote your game there by posting screenshots, making ofs, etc. in relevant rooms. Make sure not to spam, but all in relevant rooms, it's all welcome. And give advice to others. Try to be supportive towards other developers making games, and try to play their games as well. Play for play, follow for follow, right? It's great to support each other in the community. And on itch, make sure to upload a nice cover, which can be animated as a GIF. It's always awesome. Use relevant tags. It's funny, but for Santa Monica by Night, one of the tags which I used was gay, because the game features very prominent gay romance in between two characters. And we were on the very top of the gay genre on itch for months. So we had so many people from LGBT community just coming and playing our game because we were like, hey, it's in the top 5 of gay games on itch. So that was amazing. And actually, like people wrote there in the comments that they appreciated it a lot. And I was very happy to find an audience, you know, with this game. Write a catchy description, post screenshots, and comment on other games, because if you are active in the community with a nice avatar, etc., then people may click and be interested in what you did, so they will test out your games. Now, marketing ideas, other. You can also join development games on Facebook if you still use Facebook. I don't judge, it's fine. No, but I am in many development groups on Facebook. I exchange, you know, some links, and if people are having some questions, I love to answer from time to time. So you can find development groups either for your language, if you are a non-English speaker. There's like, I think there are groups in all languages possible. And you can also join general indie dev game jam groups and stuff like that. You can exchange services with other participants, like testing. You can post screenshots from your game on Instagram. You can also post videos about your game's development on TikTok. Don't be afraid of TikTok. A lot of people are afraid of it because it seems to be... Okay, maybe a lot of people my age are afraid of it because it seems to be a young people's platform. I'm sorry, I'm old. But yeah, TikTok is fun. And you can record yourself stumbling upon bugs in your game, or fixing some bugs, or having fun with development or whatever. And I'm sure there's going to be people watching it. And if you learned or made something new this month, consider teaching the rest of the community on what you did. You can make a tutorial video, you can do some screenshots and say how you did some stuff from step by step. There's going to be folks which are going to be very grateful for that. And that is basically it. Do you have any questions? Please throw them at me. William Cheer, yes, that's the guy who made Manifold Garden. I was following him for years before he made this game. I think it took him like 5 years or 4 to make it. And he was streaming on Twitch consistently throughout this time. It was amazing. What retard, you were a mod for his channel? That's amazing. I was, one of the... this is the game that I definitely followed. The other game I followed, but I haven't played it yet, was... how was it called? The 2D post-punk disgusting experience with pixels and disgusting monsters. It released on Steam like a month ago or 2 months ago. I don't remember the name now, but it was also really cool. Death Trash, exactly! That's the game. Yes, I followed it for years too. I think it took the guy like 6 years to make it. And I was following him on Twitter throughout the process. It was such a cool journey to watch. I love watching games in development. It's just so fun. But anyway, let me know if you have any questions about the Game Jam. Of course, it's starting tomorrow, so you don't have to do anything if you don't want to just yet, but you can start submitting your games from tomorrow. If you want to make a game in one day, you can do it tomorrow. But you can definitely, take some time and think about what you want to do and join the Game Jam later. It's out there for the whole month. You mentioned posting a link to the Dark Pack Discord. Yes, I am going to do it straight away. Let me just very quickly grab it from Discord and post it in the chat. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, it's going to be below the stream. Invites. Let me disable the streaming bot because it's not going to show me invites when I do that. And here. Oh, there we go. Archon is faster. Thank you, Archon. You can click on the link that Archon Bun posted. Someone was asking about preferred length of the game on the judge's side. I said there's likely no such thing as a preferred length, as in just try not to overscope it. Let me know if I was wrong. No, that's definitely the thing. Of course, if we if we end up with a problem that there are going to be over 100 games submitted and many of them are going to be very long, then what we're going to do is basically prolong the judging process and to make sure that we get through them properly. I do not say that we are going to get thoroughly through the all branches in your game in the judging period, because we might not even know how branching some games are and how much they differ. But I definitely want to play through as much as I can through these games. If I'm going to find the blockers also, that might be something that will prevent me from playing them full. But we are... if we're going to get a problem that there are just too many games and they are too long, we're just going to prolong the judging process in order to get to them properly, because I feel like everyone will deserve the time spent on getting to know their games and their projects. So we'll let you know in December. I put a very short time for judging just because I'm going on a leave in half of December. And I wanted to be involved in this. But again, if we don't manage to do it, then we might as well postpone the results. Are there any chances to win if you submit a game that is not serious? It depends in what way. If it's a mockery of the setting, then, it depends on how you interpret it. LA by Night is not serious in all of its moments. There are very funny moments in LA by Night. Bloodlines had a lot of funny moments, right? There's plenty of humoristic moments in Nightroad and other games that we have out there. So Vampire is a marriage of darkness and light in some places, because there has to be light in order for it to be the darkness, I think. So you can definitely take some jokes, make some jokes in your games and don't make it too serious. But it has to be adherent to the setting. So if it's completely not adherent to the setting, if it's basically what we do in the shadows, and then there might be issues with that adherence part. The line between horror and absurdity is really thin. I do strongly believe that in order to have a proper experience, Vampire the Masquerade experience, a very dark experience, you do need to have some light moments, because only offering heavy without offering any light it might be maybe too much of a burden to viewers, players, people that that consume whatever product you make. So I always tend to, like, when I roleplay Vampire the Masquerade, I always marry those more comedic moments with the less. And I feel like it makes me feel emotions more throughout the game. So yeah. The adherence setting is one of the rules which we have on the, not the rules, but the criteria. There we go. We have the criteria to judge, and one of them is adherence to the setting. The other one is atmosphere, for example, gameplay, how the game plays. There's also atmosphere / audiovisual, so your game doesn't have to have an audiovisual layer in order for it to have a chance to win, but if it doesn't have the audiovisual layer, it has to convey atmosphere in some other form. So we are going to look into the whole picture, but adherence to setting is one important point there. It's just because, you know, the winner has a chance to release on Steam with all of the other games which you have in there. So there might be a lot of people who will download your game as the World of Darkness franchise and not know it was specifically a game jam game or a community game. They're just going to play it. And in order for that, we need to make sure that this game is going to convey the setting properly. It's not going to be like, oh, I played this, is this Vampire the Masquerade V5? Right? Is this Vampire? Is this what Vampire become nowadays? So yeah, it has to convey the mood, for sure. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining me, and if you are watching me on YouTube, please feel free to leave your questions down below. I hope this was helpful. I had so much fun running this workshop for you. I hope it was fun to watch. And yeah, I wish you good luck in the game jam. I would love to participate. I'm not going to participate this time. I'm going to watch you making your games and play all of your games. I do wish to play every single one of the games that is going to be submitted. So that's my plan for next month. And in the meantime, don't get lost in the night and have fun with the game jam.